Well, now that I've played Dark Souls and I've come across people like this, where, you know, all sorts of interesting stuff happening, modded weapons, modded spells, you know, summoning phantoms, all that kind of bullshit. You know, I've got to the point where I'm trying to unlearn a lot of the standards that I forced on myself, just for the sake of my own enjoyment, because I've done the honor stuff, I've done the dishonorable stuff, I've done low level stuff, I've done arranged duels, I've done ganks, I've done pretty much everything. So I want to get that stun lock, you know, preconception out of my system, because it's silly. And it's one of the best uses for the bigger weapons, and if I can do that, I'll just become a better player, and hopefully I'll have more fun. But it's difficult, it's really difficult, and especially now that they've slowed the swings down, and because of lag and things. And the one thing you do notice when you're using these big weapons is how much you seem to chase people. Like, every hit seems to miss, they seem to hit you and get out before you've even finished swinging. You really notice your lack of speed. And the one thing that's really frustrating with this particular weapon, because my build is a 120, I think it is, and it's not technically spec to any of these big swords, it's spec so I can use all of them. So instead of, you know, really mid-maxing it towards one, I've kind of spread it as thin as it can go to get all three. And the damage on my AR is about 450. 400 to 450, so it's not the worst attack rating, but it's still noticeable. Like, I get out-damage raced by a Chaos Blade. Like, the Chaos Blade is hitting more damage than I am with a greatsword in two hands. I kept that one in just there because I killed Paladin Leroy. Just, I don't even know how, he just went. That dude is tough as balls. But I think this is it. This is the one. Watch this. This fight here, this guy is obviously looking to PvP because he was standing around in the catacombs. He's using a Chaos Blade, he's got some interesting poise, and, you know, he's being fast, he's using his build. I do a couple of parries which look okay and I just get nothing. This should have been a backstab, but he was in the middle of a roll animation, so it didn't give it him. And there's an interesting one coming up where I think I swing at him and he gets the backstab. I'm not too sure. We will find out though. I think it's this. No. But look at that, counter damage on the Chaos Blade running attack. Like, it's doing so much more than I am, and I'm using this giant sword. And you don't realise until you see stuff like this just how powerful that weapon is. And, yeah, out-damaged by a Chaos Blade. It's amazing, and I used it so much when I first started playing PvP, didn't even notice. This is the best invasion on this entire session. Oh my god, love this guy. I think he was a fan because he got all excited jumping up and down, and then he did this to me. Glorious. Absolutely glorious. Single best moment of the entire evening. I love that dude. I love you. Oh, he's so good. Oh, I love that that can still happen. You know, even when you think you know what you're doing. Dark Souls, love it. But I started playing with the Chaos Blade last night for the first time in ages, and I was in the kiln, and it's just unbelievable. It's almost as unbelievable as the Phantom Range on that there, because me and this guy lag so much with each other. But it's unreal, and it's so much fun. But as soon as people see it, understandably, they've got zero respect for it, because it's so simple to use and it's so damn damaging. But there we go. Lag. GG, you know, Crystal Magic Weapon, GG. There might be a little bit more bowing in this particular session. We'll see what we've got here. Boulder Side Sword and some interesting range. I was messing around with alternating reverse rolls with attacks to see if I could get anything that worked or seemed interesting. But the roll attacks on these greatswords are worthless unless they've got a poke. It's too direct, it's too straight, and it's too easy to miss. And it's slow, so it's really annoying. But this guy's using a spear, and he's spacing me. He's got some poise, so he's got the poise advantage possibly. But he's not using it to try and poke the hell out of me. He looks like a Leo build, and I clip him just then on his roll. So if you see me return a bow, guys, it generally means the person bowed at me. Every so often I won't return bows because, you know, I've bowed so many times on this game, I just get to the point where it's like, what does it even fucking mean? You know, when you're not getting stabbed in the back during it, it doesn't mean anything. I've bowed to a guy who then pulled out a modded spell. Like, it's so meaningless. And I hate to say it because I like this tradition of acknowledging the fight. And here we go again with bloody Mr. Lag. Fucking Tetris over here. But there's a couple of interesting fights in this session where I make bad mistakes. I make poor decisions. And a lot of people wouldn't show them. You know, like somebody commented on the first piece of this video, which I ended up sending him something smarky back because it was just a douchey comment where he was saying this, you know, I didn't punish a backstab sorry, I didn't punish parry spam with a backstab, you know, so this is obviously low level play. Like, I'm playing as Artorias in a cosplay build, trying to land R2s on a weapon whose R2s are the least viable, in the game. Like, what the fuck are you expecting, you know? I don't have the chainmail on. I don't have the little, you know, what's it called, like the leather shield. I'm not toggling from stun locks into backstabs. I'm not reverse rolling and, you know, hornet ring swapping. That's not what this is. What are you expecting? And on top of that, all the high level play that you see on YouTube is hand-picked. So I've never even claimed to be, you know, a high level player or this fucking professional standard. What I have said is I will show you every fight in a session so that it's the most honest representation of me I can give. The only ones I don't do that on are like the disconnects or the short ones that are stupid or the ones that are overly long and kill the flow of the video. That's the only ones that I take out usually. And these videos here, this Artorias session, this is every single fight I had that night in order. And that's as honest as it can be. This is what happened in this session. So on so many levels, the person who left this comment, it's just like, dude, why are you even here? You know, why are you even watching? I love people who come along and say, I think you should do this in your videos, or try this might look good, because that's constructive criticism. This is just an elitist, snobbish cunt who's just leaving his trail of just miserableness. And I don't even think miserableness is a word, which just goes to show how much just disdain I have for these kind of people. But off that topic, onto this one. I'm back again with this laggy guy, and goodness me, he's doing some poking with that. I think is it the Balder swag sword? Yeah, it is. But, you know, the game was on my favour there. I managed to get just enough life to finish him off. This guy's got a claymore with a resin on it. I think it's a claymore. It could be a bastard sword. It'd be lovely if it were a bastard sword, but no one uses the fat... Oh, it's definitely a claymore. Ooh, that was unlucky and unnecessary. Didn't mean to do it. Went to attack. One of the things I've noticed with great swords is that a fantastic opportunity to attack is mid-rolls. You know, try to time the rolls, because everybody tries to roll through your swings and either go for the backstab or just be evasive and counter you. So one of the things that I found really useful was when you're running at them to do the running attack, instead of unlocking and going for dead angles and stuff, because you know the person's going to probably roll, try and you know, run for a little bit longer than you normally would. Put yourself in a situation that's not the best. Because two things will happen. You'll either hit them after the roll, or the three things might happen actually. The second thing, which is also a good one, if they don't commit to evading, you can probably just get the lock-on backstab on them because you're so close at that point. And then the third thing is, they think you're going for a backstab, they counter backstab you. And that rarely happens, really rarely happens. But this right here, guys, this is an example of how not to fight a Falchion buff R1 spammer who has zero poise. This is how you don't do it. I should have stun-locked this guy and killed him effortlessly, but because I'm so used to either backstabbing them or parrying them, because I'm not a stun-locker by trade, I'm trying to break this restriction I have, I just don't think to do it. And it's so embarrassing. Like, look, I'm going for parries on one of the most dangerous combinations in the game. And it doesn't help that the connection is as you can see, it's not one-to-one, because nothing in Dark Souls is. But luckily enough, we get him again, and I think I redeem myself. So look, poison knifes are staggering him for Christ's sake. But hits me with a big wog, comes in again. You know what he wants to do, and he's confident now because he's already beat me once. But that's the thing. I learned, thank God. I realised, Chris, what the fuck are you doing? He had no poise. You have a big sword. Use the damn sword. And there you go. And then I gave him the fucking wave back because he did it to me. So I always return waves. That's what I'm like. If you do a taunt to me, I'll do the taunt back to you. But this guy here, you've already seen a video of this fellow. He's the person who taunted before he'd killed me, and I think you're going to see it in this particular session. So, gotta feel sorry for him, but it's just how it works. I also have to say as well, when I'm in the Berg and I'm dueling like this, I like to fight. I like a one-on-one fight. That's why I come here, because there's this standard that's kind of been set by the people that play the game that not everybody agrees with, but in some respects, this is the area where you come for those kind of fights. And when people come in and interrupt them, it really irritates me. And this guy interrupts a fight with a newer player who's being very turtly and very defensive, and he finishes him off. And I hate that. And if you do that, I lose all respect for you, because let the guy fight. You know, he might not be the best player, he might not be winning, but let him go down on his shield. Don't interfere. It's so rude and so douchebaggy. I hate it, I really do. And the funny thing is, like, people do douchebaggy things to me, and then send me messages saying how much they like the fucking channel. Like, really? Have you listened to any of my Dark Souls videos? Like, at the beginning of this video, when we were in the catacombs, there was that gank squad, and the guy pulled out the Ancient Pulse spell. Both people sent me messages saying that they loved my videos. So I sent the messages back, essentially calling them a waste of functioning organs, arseholes, wankers, whatever I said. I think I called them worthless. I could have said much worse, because I was mad. And then they're sending messages back, apologising, saying, oh, they didn't realise it were you, and all stuff like that. It's like, guys, there's no excuse. It doesn't matter who it is. You're fucking cheating. You're cheating people looking for PvP. And it's disgusting, but that's my own personal opinion. And that was spot on, liars. Spot on game. Give me the goddamn R2s. But luckily enough, this guy wasn't punishing every single mistake, because if he was, he would have killed me. And as you can see, I ended up killing him. But for the most, me and this dude had a lot of good fights, and he seemed like he was having a lot of fun. But then he interrupts one, and it really bugged me. And then I sent him a message saying, don't interrupt. And he sent me one back saying, what? Like, are you fucking deaf? Dude. But this is a guy with a boulder sword, and he's playing extremely defensively. And if this is the person I think it is, he's putting his red sign down in the Berg, and I summon him 3 or 4 times. It might not be this fellow. It could be, though. And every single time, the motherfucker doesn't fight. The motherfucker just turtles behind a shield, runs away, turtles, runs away, turtles, and it gets to the point where I have to backstab him because he's just not doing it, and I'm Artorias, so Artorias doesn't have a shortle. And I think this is it. I think this is when that dude interrupts, because I go to throw a knife, and he shoots him with an arrow. So watch. Watch. I think it's now. I throw a knife. Watch him, watch him. See it? Don't get me wrong, I wasn't enjoying that fight. That guy was being a dick. He was far too defensive and turtly. It's not dick, sorry. It's just, he was fighting an interesting style that I'm not a fan of, and it really frustrates me. And this guy comes along and interrupts, so I point him down. And I'm literally, that gesture just then is, dude, there's no need for that. We don't do that in my world. This is my world. You don't do that in my world. And it's like, seriously? And the flip side of this is, there are no rules in Dark Souls when you're invading. You know, you're invading. I have no idea why the Berg became this, you know, honourable duel place where everybody can't do the free-for-alls and just get crazy and do silly stuff. And it's a shame that they can't. At the same time, when I come here looking for a one-on-one fight and you interrupt, you get no respect for me. Like, he just beat me honourably, fairly, but he ruined it by shooting that other guy. You know, give people time to try. That fight wasn't over. He could have still beaten me. But this might be the guy I was talking about. You'll notice he's got decent poise. He's using something that pokes, and he does that a lot. The rolling poke. He does it so much. Just roll, poke. That's all he's doing. Defensive, rolling, and poking. You might think, why not parry it? Well, I went to then, and I was a bit too slow, so kind of annoying. But he went to do it again. And it's just that thing of, is this guy really just doing this? And if you're new and you're watching this video, I implore you, you need to realise what you're doing when you fight. And we're all guilty of this. We all get lazy, we all make mistakes, we all get into rhythms, and we get lazy. And if you notice yourself doing a move a lot, you're going to eventually get punished for doing that move by someone who's a better player. And a lot of the times you don't run into the better player, so you can get away with doing those little moves. And it makes it worse then, because you're so used to getting away with it, the first guy that toggles and you go for that stun lock, and you get parried, and then you're in trouble. But you do need it, because you need to be woken up, you need to be made aware that you're not safe at all. Because there's always going to be somebody who will either outplay you or remind you that you're fickle and you keep needing to learn and improve. And a good way to do that is to do what I'm doing now. Put on a weapon you don't necessarily like, put in a build you don't necessarily want to fight with, and stick with it. Because it's so easy to lose a couple of fights and go back to what you know. Like the amount of times I wanted to put a shield on, the amount of times I wanted to put a side weapon on, the amount of times I wanted this or that was unbelievable. But it all stems from the same factor of me thinking if I'd have had those things, the fight would have gone any differently. And sometimes, sure, that can be the case. But a lot of the times, guys, you're just kind of disillusioning yourself. You know, you're blaming things. And when you start blaming things instead of acknowledging that you need to learn, that's when you stop getting better. And I'm always improving on Dark Souls. And it might not look impressive to some people who are better than me, but it's nice to see those improvements. And I got a comment the other day of somebody saying they watched my early Dark Souls PvP and it's so interesting to see the difference. And I think that's one thing that my channel definitely has that's unique, because it has me when I'd never fought, when I'd never PvP'd, and I'm giving content. And, you know, understandably, the commentary in it is as raw as it comes, and a lot of people have complained that it's really complainy and bitchy and whiny and stuff like that, but that's what I was feeling at the time. That's what those videos are. They're an honest representation of somebody getting beat up by a game where everybody else has had a year to play. You know, so it's an interesting one, but I like it because it's honest. Some people don't, but that's their, you know, prerogative. So this is a Claymore fight. The biggest problem is this weapon's going to lose to a Claymore a lot of the times, because if they've got their build right, their Claymore will do more damage than it. The Claymore has that fantastic R2 that you can combo with, and it has that amazing roll attack. You know, I've noticed now that why would you ever use the other greatswords when the Claymore is so good? Like, the only reason you would is for Fashion Souls, because it gets boring using the same weapons, and I completely agree and do that myself. Like, I like the Flamberge, and I'm probably going to try and get experimental with different greatswords, but there's not that many. Like the Great Lord Greatsword, the Bastard Sword. And off the top of my head, I can't think of too many. Like the Man Serpent Greatsword, which is already a fantastic weapon. Like, that is one of the most powerful weapons on the game, because it's deceptively quick and so powerful. A lot of people might be wondering as well why I'm using Divine Blessings to heal. Well, I have an Estus Flask that's not being kindled, because I never kindle my Estus Flask anymore, really. It's just how it works. I don't really use it. So the Divines are just an easier way of healing up. And I know someone's going to comment, because they always do, because a lot of people hate, you know, duped items and things like that. But I just want those people to consider one thing. When they're watching other videos where they see people popping humanity from stacks and they don't say a word, when they're just as duped as any other item, guys. It's completely acceptable to have duped humanity and use them. As soon as you use a duped Divine Blessing, everybody just goes crazy. It's that meme with the Joker on it. You know, everybody loses their minds. It's that notion. But this is a weird one. Guy with a Titanite catchpole and an egghead. And no armor or anything, so a really interesting thing. That's why I bowed. I usually bow to things I respect. If you're using a crazy build, you get all the respect in the world. If you fight then like a bitch, I'll be kind of sad, but you'll still get respect because you're using a crazy build. I came in the Berg the other night with my Chaos Blade, Darkwood Grain Ring, Low Poise, just, you know, as agile and dangerous as I could make the build. That's what that build was, which I was having a ton of fun with. And one of the first people I fought was a guy with a Catalyst and a Talisman in each hand, and he was doing all sorts of chameleon cancels and all really fun creative stuff, and I was just being that arsehole keeping constant pressure with a super fast katana. And I felt so bad for him, because he's got this really fun build, and there's me just being, you know, a Class A dickhead with the Chaos Blade, you know, cookie-cutty Chaos Blade, super aggressive, and he's doing wog cancels and stuff, and I know what wog cancels are, so I'm not falling for him, and it just so much, you know, fun he could have had if I'd have been perhaps on this build, where I'm not just in a complete and utter destroying kind of mentality. But I'd been in the kiln, and if you've not been in the kiln recently, when it's not dead, it's really dirty. Like, so filthy. I came across the same gank squad so many times, and I killed them a dozen times. Even got messages from them saying that I was a beast, which I then laughed at, and then he insulted me. But there were tons. Like, everybody who was one-on-one was healing, was you know, just doing everything they could, pulling out bloody modded crystal greatswords. Because I've never seen anything like it. It was delicious, so delicious. And I think I fought somebody who's aware of the channel. I invaded him and killed him, then he invaded me and killed me, which is always fun to see. You know, there was a lot of stuff happening, just really weird stuff. I had a triple gank squad that was chasing me down, and I couldn't backstab the host for the life of me because the connection was so jacked, he kept backstabbing me. So I ran away to the back cave, and I waited like 40 minutes, and they eventually all quit systematically, and I won through attrition, and then sent them all really snarky messages. It was a pretty fun night. But I think this is the guy. Have you seen this? He doesn't attack. And if you're invading and you're not attacking, or you're turtling and you're playing super defensive like this guy is, and he is chipping me down, but he's doing it so lazily. Like, I don't understand it at all. And what's worse is this guy's leaving his red sign down. If you're going to leave your red sign down, you've got to fight. And I'm not saying don't play defensively. Play defensively. But that guy was literally doing nothing at all. And it happens a lot, and it's really, really annoying. But here is the Greatsword War. You can always tell when they start doing those circles that they're going to run at you unlocked. So the parries can be tricky sometimes. For the most, I like to roll and maybe go for a backstab and hit them. But we both hit each other. He gets me with the R2, which is delicious on the Claymore. That weapon looks better every single time I use this one. And my only regret is I never used it before the patch. You know, I never used anything that they changed. Like, I only started using Wrath of God, you know, after Prepare to Die edition. And I know they didn't change Wrath, which is the most confusing part of the Dark Souls balance. He's doing some interesting combos, wog into stunlock and things. Oh, that's kind of frustrating when you get clipped by something like that. But it's a close fight. It's, you know, two very close and similar builds, although he does have some faith and the superior weapon, in my opinion. And we get an interesting fight. And I believe that is the final fight of the session. So I'd just like to, you know, say a big thank you to everybody who actually fought in this session in the Berg, because there's nothing worse than people who don't. And thank you for watching if you've got to the end, and you take care now.